Welcome to Mama Loves Paris, and this is Street of the Week. Rue Mouffetard starts here at Place de la Contrescarpe. It's a pretty square with a fountain at the centre, surrounded by alfresco bistros lauding quaint French traditions. Hemingway actually mentions this square in his book, The Movable Feast, and more specifically, he mentions this cafe that I'm sitting in right now. He said, and I kept away from it because of the smell of dirty bodies and the sour smell of drunkenness. Fortunately, Café des Amateurs has been replaced by Café Del Mar, and the smell of that sour drunkenness that Hemingway talked about, it's been replaced with Parisian coffee and croissants. Adored by Parisians and tourists alike, Rue Mouffetard is steeped in history, inhabited by celebrities today and yesteryear, and is a haunt for foodies, students, shoppers, literature lovers, and everyone else in between. A wonderful, narrow, crowded market street. That's how Hemingway describes Rue Mouffetard in his book, A Movable Feast. Well, he should know. Hemingway moved into this apartment, 74 Rue Cardinal Lemoine, in 1922 with his wife. This was the first place they rented in Paris, and it's 2 minutes from Rue Mouffetard. He described it as the poorest of addresses. This is the place where he handed his first manuscript to Gertrude Stein, the owner of the famous bookstore Shakespeare and Company. Hemingway moved in very influential circles. Imagine the literati glitterati of the 1920s, the perfect dinner party guest list, the Fitzgeralds, James Joyce who wrote Ulysses, George Orwell. In fact, George Orwell wrote that book, you know, Down and Out in Paris in London, by living in abject poverty just up the road on Rue Mouffetard. We're on the lower half of Rue Mouffetard now, and this area is packed with specialty shops full of fantastic fruit, great wine, wonderful breads, cheeses, all the things that you would imagine. It seems to me that this part of the street seems very much more catered for Parisians, and the upper half of Rue Mouffetard more catered for tourists. So after you've taken a stroll down the beautiful Rue Mouffetard, you might want to take a moment to reflect at this nearby famous church. This is St. Etienne de Mont, the church featured in the film At Midnight in Paris. You remember the scene, Gil sitting on the steps, contemplating life, and then all of a sudden a taxi just appears and takes him into a completely different era. Okay, so all in all, you've got to get down to this street. It's really easy to get to, it's super central. Like I said, it's in the 5th Arrondissement. You can get the number 89 bus to come down here, or you can get a metro to Cardinal Lemoine. That's the name of the street that Hemingway lives on, so it should be easy to remember. It's right next to the Pantheon, so you've got a really good sign there as a way of knowing exactly where you are. It is absolutely beautiful, completely stunning, full of history, and it's just like walking back in time. You've got to come here. Rue Mouffetard is great, a perfect street of the week.